Welcome to Resolutions, the official podcast of the American Bar Association section of dispute resolution. Every episode is a journey into the heart of conflict resolution, guided by our diverse community of experts. We're here to explore innovative strategies, share wisdom from the field, and inspire excellence in resolving disputes. Whether you're a dispute resolution professional, a curious learner, or someone passionate about fostering understanding and peace, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's conversation and discover how we can transform conflict into opportunity together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Resolutions. Today, we're sitting down with Kimberly Taylor, CEO and President of JAMS. By way of background, allow me to introduce Kim. She joined JAMS in 1999 as General Manager and progressed through several leadership roles, including Vice President and Associate General Counsel, Senior Vice President and Chief Legal and Operating Officer, and ultimately to her current roles as President in 2021 and CEO in 2024. Kim is a respected voice in the ADR industry, a frequent writer, lecturer, and speaker on effective conflict resolution and organizational leadership. And it's no surprise, she's listed in the cadre of 50 women to watch in the Corporate Counsel Business Journal. I am delighted to welcome Kim, who is both a friend and a respected colleague. Welcome to our soundstage, Kim.
Thank you so much, Rekha.
We're going to jump right in. You've risen to CEO and president and one of the leading private ADR providers. What is your overarching vision for JAMS?
I hope that JAMS continues to deliver the very high quality dispute resolution service that we have come to be known for over the more than 4 decades that we've been in business. We have a cadre of some of the most experienced and effective neutrals that work with us across all of our resolution centers and also in the virtual environment. My vision is that we continue to support those neutrals practices with also the best case administration in the business, continue to grow and evolve as technology changes the profession and provides new tools for us to use. In my perfect world, will be another 4 decades down the line, somebody else will be leading the organization and will be just as strong.
And you've teed me up nicely, Kim, for my next question. It's a 2-part one, but discussions on and about technology are on the rage at conferences, at cocktail parties, around the dinner table, and especially in ADR. I enjoyed reading your recent article dated October 20, hot off the press and within CEO World magazine, titled "The Future of Dispute Resolution in a Tech-Driven World." So tell us, Kim, first part of the question, how can tech from AI and digital tools reshape how we operate in this industry while simultaneously maintaining that important human element?
I think that's the key point, Rekha. There's so much advantages to technology in terms of organizing data, in terms of automating routine tasks. Really, the way I see technology intersecting with ADR is it as a complement to it, not a replacement for it. So much of what we do, whether mediating or arbitrating or in other ways trying to help people get out of conflict, requires a human touch, human element. But technology can work side by side with the humans to make things go more efficiently, to help with simple things like legal research, but also document summarization and document analytics, looking at fact patterns to determine trends, and really just assist both the neutral, the arbitrator or mediator, and the support people, the case managers, do their jobs more effectively and really spend their time helping with the people and helping with the personal elements of the process. So I see them as really complementary to each other. And AI in particular, there's just so much that is being developed around that. I think, things that such as, helping a party select the right neutral for their matter using an AI assisted search agent, to helping our arbitrators summarize documents and get to the heart of a matter more quickly so that the process is more efficient. And again, allowing them to really focus on what differentiates them from a computer or a bot or others, and that is just the skill and the empathy and the judgment and just wisdom that they bring to the process.
Thanks so much. I'm going to push deeper on this one just to ask, behind the scenes at JAMS, each provider is doing different things to try to ready their stakeholders. And so what's happening in the background at JAMS?
Well, there's a lot. We have, about a year ago, we introduced an initiative that we called JAMS Next. And it was really about introducing some specific AI-enabled tools like real-time transcription of hearings, the neutral search capability that I spoke of, and then also equipping our neutrals with tools like Westlaw's Co-Counsel, another product, Precision, giving them access to those tools for their own use. We are constantly evaluating the opportunities for both automating tasks and also introducing use cases for artificial intelligence. We have a working group of some of our top neutrals that we meet with regularly to both talk about potential use cases, also to test products that are coming across our desks. And we do the same with our associates. And we do things like an innovation challenge where we invite teams of associates across the organization to work together to provide suggestions for ways that we can incorporate these new tools into our day-to-day work. That's been really exciting. We've gotten some really great ideas and use cases that we are in the process of rolling out and implementing internally. It's important that all of our folks stay current on how to use these tools. So we have our internal neutral training arm, which we call JAMS Institute, delivering programming to our neutrals on a regular basis on different technology that's available. A neutral that is adept at a certain technology will provide some hands-on demonstrations about how that is used. And we also work with some of the vendors that we work with to provide tools to our neutrals to make sure that they're offering training as well. And then, of course, for our associates, that's just an ongoing learning cycle. And then, we've done other things. We introduced last year a set of arbitration rules that were specifically designed to deal with cases that might arise out of the use of AI, because there's just a lot of different considerations that have to be taken into account if you've got, let's say, an IP dispute based upon material that maybe an AI tool took from somebody else, and those are unique issues. And oftentimes there's technology behind the case where the neutral has to have maybe a deeper understanding about how documents are generated and really have that technical expertise. And that's another thing that we provide training on through our institute. There's not a day that goes by in my world where we're not talking about some aspect of technology and how it's being deployed and implemented just across the organization. So it's an exciting time.
Exciting, maddening. Let me just drop a note to our listeners. If you go to the JAMS website, artificial intelligence disputes, laws, and rules could be a good guide. And also here a plug, JAMS has been a constant and regular sponsor and support system to the section of dispute resolution. But back to it, you've just proven, Kim, it is maddening to evaluate the tools and stay on top of it. And so can you offer some advice to legal professionals? How do we train? How do we remain prepared and well educated on what's out there? Because there's just so much.
There is. And I would strongly suggest if somebody's listening to this podcast, they clearly have some connection to or interest in alternative dispute resolution. The section of the ABA that you mentioned, Rekha, is always a really good source of learning. And I always recommend practitioners tap into that. I know across my newsfeed, my legal newsfeed every day, there are programs that are offered about how AI is being used. And I stay pretty current on that. I drop in and listen to programs where I can. I'm reading about it every day. I'll say that with also maybe a bit of a caveat that while this is very exciting, I'm not feeling in a rush to do anything. I think it's okay to be deliberate about it so that we are identifying the best tools and making sure that those are being properly vetted so that all of the things that we need to be super mindful of, like maintaining the confidentiality of the proceedings, which the parties really bargain for when they choose alternative dispute resolution, that we make sure that we're protecting the integrity of the data and that we are making sure that we have appropriate sort of safeguards and guardrails around all of that. And that neutrals in particular are mindful of their ethical obligations, for example, as an arbitrator to decide the case and not delegate that authority, if you will, to an AI process. It's much like AI can be helpful in doing legal research or maybe even putting together a first draft of a document. The arbitrator and the mediator need to make sure that they're remaining in control of the case. And the counsel also, while those tools might be useful for, say, the preparation of a mediation brief or a document to be submitted in arbitration, I think we have to be cautious about how we're using it so that we avoid the phenomenon of hallucinations, which can really just instantly destroy a lawyer's credibility. And that we're also making sure that we're keeping our own professional judgment at the forefront of any way that we're using the technology, whether as counsel or whether you're a litigator or you're in-house counsel or you're a neutral deciding a case. So I think that it's important to educate oneself. And I think that that's another ethical obligation we all have as lawyers, which is to make sure that we stay current and informed. And so at the same time, the technology is moving very rapidly. So what might be true today might be replaced by something else next month. But all the more reason then, I think, to not be afraid of this. You don't necessarily have to rush into it, but I think staying educated and informed is really critically important.
Deliberate intentionality. And you bring us back to that human element, which takes us into our next question, one on empathy. You've often spoken about empathy as a critical driver in reaching amicable outcomes. Can you share a specific example where empathy or emotional intelligence transformed a seemingly intractable dispute into a resolution, be it from personal or even professional life? Because the truth is, we wear these hats from one segment of our lives into the next.
Yeah, without speaking about particular cases, I think I've been in this business such a long time, and I have watched parties walk into one of our facilities at the beginning of the day, very tense, worried, nervous. For many people, even sophisticated business users, the day that their hearing is occurring, the day that their mediation session is occurring is a stressful day. Much like when you go to court, those typically are not without a lot of anxiety. And so what I have enjoyed watching our neutrals be very effective listeners, really put themselves in the shoes of the person who's talking and whose case is being presented, and making sure that they let the parties know that they do hear them. And then to see at the end of the day, people shaking hands and coming out relieved that the matter's behind them. I know some of our mediators are very effective at trying to paint a picture of what life could look like post-conflict. Wouldn't your life be so much better if you can move forward and put this conflict behind you so that maybe you can put your business partnership back on track? Or maybe you can find an easier path through a divorce where the acrimony is lessened. And so empathy is just critically important in the process. And even as a decision maker, as an arbitrator, I think that having that empathy for the lawyers that are putting their case on, for the witnesses that might be feeling uncomfortable in that environment, and for the parties whose businesses or the decision is going to have an impact on their lives. I think that knowing the important role that we play, this is something I often speak to our associates about. As a young lawyer, that was an important lesson I was taught, that when you go into a courthouse, it's very rare that it's for a happy reason. It's because you're in strife or you've been hurt, or there's some other negative thing that's happened in your life, unless you're getting married or maybe an adoption's being finalized. Those are happy moments, but otherwise it's stressful in a courtroom. And so I was always taught that you can make an impact by being kind to people. And so that's something that we really instill in all of our associates as well. When people are walking through our doors, it's not necessarily their happiest day. So that's a form of empathy that I think is also very important.
Awareness. And perhaps, one side of it is the empathy that all parties and especially the mediators can bring to the table. But then in line with that is also preparation, right? To have a successful process. And so I'd be curious to hear if you can share any strategies that parties can employ in a preparation mindset to enter mediation and increase their chances of success.
Oh, that's a really good question. And I think that, first of all, knowing your case well is obviously very important. Equally important is knowing your opponent's case. That's a form of empathy, being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes so that you have some sense of where they might be coming from, which also then creates, especially in a mediation, it creates an environment of compromise, or at least an openness to compromise. So I think that having, knowing what to expect ahead of time, I think helps a lot. Most of our mediators conduct pre-mediation calls with the parties, sometimes jointly, sometimes individually, just to let them know what to expect for that day. There's debate. I think there's a difference of opinion about the value of a joint session at the beginning of a mediation. I think those are less common today than they were when I first joined this profession. But in any event, making sure that the party that they're coming in, that this is their opportunity, in many cases, maybe their only opportunity to really be heard. And I think it's important that if lawyers can prep their clients for being open to that, I think that can go a long way toward creating an environment that's conducive to resolution.
Thanks. Now we're going a little bit personal on leadership and on other things as we come slowly to the conclusion of this podcast. And so I'd like to ask, towards the future leaders in conflict resolution, do you have a personal mantra or philosophy that you use as a guide that we could enter into the general space? Anything that you'd like to share here?
I will share something that I have shared more recently with folks internally at JAMS, and it may sound simplistic or maybe trite on the surface, but I think it has been a very important guiding post for me throughout my business career and my personal life, and that is always take the high road. When you're faced with a decision as a business leader, whether you're leading a department or a team or a segment of the business or an entire organization, there are going to be decisions that come up that there might be kind of a shortcut or an easy way to do something, but that's not the reason to take that road. You have to constantly assess what you're doing against your values. And at JAMS, we care deeply about neutrality, empathy, professionalism, inclusivity, so many of those important things that absolutely have to guide all of our decisions. And sometimes that means saying no to a business opportunity. Sometimes it means taking extra steps to ensure that we are living up to our goals to do everything we do with integrity, neutrality, compassion. So to me, the simplest way to say that is just always take the high road, and you'll never regret it. It might be harder sort of in the moment, but I use the analogy, which is very personal to me, which is that I absolutely love the outdoors, and I've done some epic hiking and trekking in my life. And the best, most beautiful views have always been the hardest hikes. I use that as kind of my personal analogy for that. Like I said, it may sound simplistic, but I do think it forces leaders to stay true to their core values.
Take the high road. What about one thing people should know about you that they don't?
Oh, goodness. Some of the people that are closer to me know that I am a not very talented, but aspiring artist. So I've a lot of lawyers probably can relate to this, that sometimes you might enter law school with a creative bent, but that sort of gets taught out of you for a bit, although some of the more creative people I know are also lawyers. But I have enjoyed over the last 18 months or so taking formal fine art lessons and am really loving that. I really kind of started thinking about it because I have this just absolutely lunatic but lovable Labrador retriever. And when she was a puppy, I came up with an idea for a children's book that I at some point want to write and illustrate. So I still have that as a dream.
I'm smiling because in the chats during the pandemic, respite was to be able to see people, the interior of people's homes, right? The things that encouraged and activated them. And I have seen some paintings that Kim was working on, and it just that humanity of approach, perhaps that is a common thread in our overall conversation, because that is what makes the distinction from one person and provider to the next. But stay tuned, all. Perhaps we'll be seeing some of Kim's work out there and even in a children's book. Well, that brings us to the end of our podcast. You've heard it here, folks. Integrity, efficiency, neutrality, compassion, and being deliberate are forever drivers to the success of an ADR system. Do check out JAMS next. Thanks to our audience, and take good care, everyone.
Thank you, Rick. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on Resolutions. Today's episode has illuminated the powerful impact of effective dispute resolution and showcased the incredible individuals who dedicate themselves to this important work. Our mission is to explore the diverse world of dispute resolution, and we hope we've inspired you to engage with conflict and collaboration in new ways. If you're not yet a member of the ABA section of dispute resolution, we invite you to join our community of professionals making a difference. Your involvement can help us build a more harmonious society together. And if you found value in our conversations, please consider leaving us a review and a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Your feedback helps us reach more people and continue our journey towards excellence in dispute resolution. Until next time, keep solving problems, building bridges, and creating positive changes in your communities.